Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see that you all are already talking, so that's cool. Everyone please report to the dance floor. There will be no dancing, sorry. But it's just a way to get your attention. Welcome everyone. First I want to say this is Building Next Generation Leadership in Arts Education. So if you are on the wrong airplane, you can get off right now. That's okay, it won't hurt our feelings, right? Okay, we're gonna explore the possibility of smooth transitions in policy, practices, partnerships, programs, fundraising, to name a few areas in our sector in the next hour and 15 minutes, really fast. My name is Tamara Alvarado. I'll go into what else I do and all that kind of stuff in a bit. This session I thought was really interesting because it's part of the Celebrating Optimism session, so I guess I can't be too cranky, right, Brendan? I'm really a cranky person. My close friends know. Like I said, it's scheduled to last an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to open up with some brief introductions. Then each of us is going to present some information about some of our work that's relevant to the topic. And then we'll have an opportunity to work together in pairs or groups, because it's going to go from pairs to groups because they're all really talkative. And then, hold on. We're going to wrap up with a few minutes of reflection. Oh, sorry. Wait, something happened. Okay. There's so many things. There's so many laptops. We'll have a few minutes for reflection, and then you'll be done, hopefully by 4:15. Yeah? And then Jeff or somebody will maybe like give us signs or that kind of thing. Oh, there you are. Okay, thanks. Maybe like give us like the 15-minute and 5-minute or something like that. Okay, cool. Well, first off, again, my name is Tamara Alvarado. I am the Executive Director of the School of Arts and Culture at the Mexican Heritage Plaza on the east side of San Jose in a neighborhood called the Mayfair. Yes, thank you. You guys are great. I'm also the co-founder of a program that's called the Multicultural Arts Leadership Institute. And we have a graduate here in the room, not to call you out, but Sophia from Molly Class 1, the originals. Yes, the best year. They were the guinea pigs. We were like, we think this is important, but we're not so sure. Join our program. I'm also the vice chair of the Board of Trustees for the Western State Arts Federation. They keep me really busy. And I'm a traditionalistic dancer. And I'll be serving as the moderator for us today. Now, briefly, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Oh, you didn't have to take the small chair. That's very nice of you. Okay. We were not going to have a diva moment. And we also have two other Molly graduates that just walked into the room. For Julie Cardenas from Molly Class 3, and then Juan from Molly Class 9. So this is a program that's going to, but anyways, okay, now I'm getting to my presentation. All right. Okay, stop it. Okay, so joining us from Oakland, I'd like to introduce Indi, McCasey, who's right here. Yeah, aplauso, it's okay, yeah. We're from the arts, we don't have to be so square. Receiving Master's in Education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Also, you've worked with the Harvard Project Zero, which is part physical theater and part oral history, as a teaching faculty member, and also as an artist in residence. Am I right? And I checked out a couple of the videos. Those were really cool. So yeah, if you get a chance, please check it out. And then recently, you also finished up doing some work with Destiny Arts Center as a director of learning. Okay. Okay, almost had it right. Okay, so, all right. And then all the way from San Antonio, which has, if you haven't been to San Antonio, you have to go. So Nicole Amri is the program director for SAY-C in San Antonio. It's a year-round, long-term, tuition-free, hold on, because I didn't memorize everything, creative youth development program that provides students there in San Antonio opportunities to develop artistic and social skills in preparation for higher ed and professional careers. Let's see, what else would this is what I thought was really interesting. You're also an alumna of the program, which is kind of cool and what we all strive for in our arts education program, is that one day you will come and take over. So, okay, un aplauso. If you don't speak Spanish, learn. Okay, so next up we have, too far. Kathi Levin, who is an independent consultant and policy and legislative liaison associated with the National Art Education Association. And I believe you said you're also on the board? Did you mention that briefly? No, okay, I was wrong. Visiting the Bay from Fairfax, Virginia? Okay. Okay, so that's my idea of brief. Now, hold on, we're gonna do things here. Okay. Oh wait, no, not that way. Sorry, everyone. Okay. You guys in the back might have to help me because I don't know how to use PCs. Thank you. We do have big questions that we wanted to put out to the group because we're going to use like 2 of them in the form of 1 later on for pair sharing. How about our AV guys? Yeah? Okay, cool. Yes, that's it right there. So please take a look at these 3 questions that we are hoping to address today, and then also have a little bit of time, about 30 minutes, once we're done with our brief presentations, to have a discussion here internally, and then take some questions of each other, make comments, think out loud. By the way, it's okay. Like in the last session I was in, people were like, well, I don't really have a question, I have a comment. It's like, yeah, I know. You know, we like to comment sometimes, not ask questions. So that's all right, that's fine. What are the challenges facing emerging arts education and veteran arts education leaders today? What are the best ways to foster intergenerational dialogue to overcome these challenges? And what next steps are needed in the field to support leaders of today and of the future to continue to enhance the field of arts education? So I think these, especially the final 2 questions, are really great because it's about that optimism that I was talking about just briefly at the top, because we can get into this whole like, you know, things are bad, and, you know, people older than me don't want to listen to me, people younger than me, and all that kind of thing. So this is really to try to approach how are we programmatically approaching this policy-wise, fundraising practices, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm also excited about our research component that Kathi, that you're going to also present. So I think we have a little bit of everything today. Yeah, okay, all right. So, want to go up? Yeah, okay, cool, thanks. Wait, here, let me give you the microphone.
Yay. Thanks, Tamara. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? Good, good. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you consider yourselves to be veteran arts education leaders? Okay, I've got a show of hands. All right, and how many of you feel like you are emerging or emergent arts education leaders? Excellent. So it's like, ooh, kind of 50-50. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm also going to set a timer for myself because I think that that's just helpful for me. But I wanted to come today as somebody who identifies a little bit in between. I'm not sure if I'm ready to fully embrace. I'm not necessarily a veteran. I'm also somebody who looks a lot younger than I actually am. I'm 39. I've been teaching for almost 25 years in experiential education and informal education environments. And those environments have always involved creativity and experiential learning. So whether it was working with young children to learn how to swim, or leading a group of teenagers out in the wilderness, getting them up at 6 a.m. to do hard manual labor and calling it fun, or doing puppet shows for young kids about body boundaries and awareness, and then also teaching circus arts. I've had quite the plethora of teaching, but it's only been recently that I've been coming into an understanding of myself as an arts education leader. I was working in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2008 and 9 as a programs manager, and it wasn't until we hired a programs director, and then that programs director left, that I realized that I was actually doing the work of the programs director. I was just paid a little bit less and had less experience, and so my title was programs manager. And I think of those kinds of issues, of these sort of ceilings that we run into, both because of our organizations and because of how we view ourselves, that lead us to be kind of questioning where we are. Are we emergent leaders? Are we veteran leaders? And if we're in between, where are we with that? For myself, the journey, I realized that I had been taking on these responsibilities when that program director left, and was continuing to do that work, but I was not getting either compensated nor acknowledged for that work, which was really challenging. And eventually, I moved back to Oakland, California. I'm from the Bay Area, from Sunnyvale, California. And so I wanted to go to a new place, and I thought, okay, in Oakland, I can have a fresh start. I've gotten, a ton of experience leading both in school, after school, and center-based arts programs. And then I found myself in Oakland having a hard time finding a job. And so I took a job as a programs associate, just because I couldn't find work as a programs manager nor a director, which was, I felt like, the responsibilities I had while in Santa Fe. And that caused me to do a personal journey around figuring out for myself how could I access the training or skills, or at least the degree I needed to be able to be acknowledged for my experience that I was bringing. And so I ended up applying to Harvard, which was a big deal as a first-generation college graduate in my family. And it was at Harvard that I realized, like, oh wait, hey, these people, some of them who had gone to other Ivy League schools, they're not necessarily any smarter than me. They're not, I sometimes have more experience than some of them. And I realized that this idea of leadership is very much both how we see ourselves and how we are seen by other people. And so coming back to the Bay Area, I feel like after getting my master's at Harvard, working with Project Zero, which is kind of like where I wanted to be, it's exciting work around the arts and education, around creative process and education. And it's a lot of work that's happening all throughout the country under a lot of different names. It may be project-based learning, it may be Montessori learning, it may be Reggio Emilia learning. To me, it's all creative learning and equipping young people with the tools to think creatively and critically and affect change in their schools. So just thinking about that journey for myself coming back to the Bay Area, it's been really exciting, I think, to see myself as this, somebody with a master's. I've been seen differently in the way that people interact, so I earned a little bit of that legitimacy. But I also, I'm hoping in the future that I can support other people having an easier journey in that process than I had. And especially as we transition out these veteran leaders who've been at the head of arts education nonprofits, community-based nonprofits for some of them 12, 13, 15 years, as these organizations are getting older, how do we phase in this new leadership, especially knowing that we have the potential for the first time to acknowledge the importance of leadership that reflects the communities that are being served. So I know for myself, as a white person moving in these worlds, it can be like I have to question my role in this process as I emerge as a leader. How am I facilitating the process of making spaces where our leadership reflects more closely the young people that we work with? And I'm going to check on my time. And I just want to say I'm really excited to have Nicole coming up next, because I feel like the potential of creating pathways for leadership coming from our alumni of our programs, and figuring out what it means to draw leadership and build leadership from within our communities is a really huge question for arts education organizations as we move forward into the next 20, 30, 40 years. So I'll give it over to Nicole after that. Thank you all so much.
Brilliant idea, time yourself. I didn't even think of that. A little bit. Hi. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Hi, I'm Nicole. Amri. They kind of introduced me. I'm the baby up here. So I'm obviously going to give a different perspective, and I'm really excited. I just talked to Indi for a little while before this session, and I'm learning at like a rapid pace. So if I stutter, it's because my brain's like overwhelmed, and the same thing's going to happen exponentially in the next hour. So just to give you a little background, SACE is a creative youth development program in San Antonio, Texas. We work with 6th through 12th grade, long-term, year-round, tuition-free. So, and in addition to building partnerships in the community based on who's underserved, who needs arts ed, who needs creative learning in their classroom or their, shelter or the hospital. And so coming from that program, I think we've seen what it means to model the organization's core values in everything we do, from policy writing to fundraising to our pedagogy to how we move leadership through our program. I was 15 when I walked into the gallery that I didn't know was SACY, and I saw the labels on the wall had age 16, 18, 17, and I thought, why is my art not here? It was that simple. And so the next recruitment period, just a few months later, I had, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, let me in. And thankfully they did. And it changed the trajectory of my life and my career and my education. And I say this because I knew I was going to be an artist since I was in 2nd grade. But because of SACY, I ended up not going to art school at all, which was the plan, and actually pursuing community organizing. But our university did not offer that. So I did the next best thing, a minor in nonprofit management, because my first job was mentoring 6th through 8th graders. So I didn't have to bag groceries, I would have, but I got to wake up on Saturdays and teach students who weren't much younger than me, because reciprocal learning is the core value at SACY. So the idea of peer-to-peer and near-to-peer, it was reflected not only in our students, obviously, but the way we train our teaching artists, the way my boss trains me. And so mentoring came, I was in love with teaching then. So I'm gonna be a teaching artist in addition to an artist, okay. Then I graduated, and we hire alumni who were mentors to teach in our community-based programs. So my relationship with SACY kept going. I started teaching in the community. And so there was the love for community building, for nonprofits, for partnering with agencies that they wouldn't normally partner together. That was what drove me. So the nonprofit minor came, but then I realized we're very small. At the time, we didn't have an administrative team. We had our executive director and the fundraiser, and that was it. And then teaching artists. That's how we were, very, very basic model. So I thought, I'm gonna go into PR so that people know about SACY, so that we can fundraise better. And so I tacked on a communications degree in PR, and then I felt dead inside because I wasn't making artwork anymore, so let's add a BFA. So thousands of dollars of debt later, my boss is like, hurry up and graduate so we can hire you. And so that's really how I ended up here. An amazing leader. I don't know if any of you have met Johnny Nahosa, but he's, yes, we're nodding, you'll know. He's been with the organization for 23 out of our 24 years that we've been, that we were been established. And so he has known me for the last almost 15 years. I was a 15-year-old when he met me. And he's watched me grow. And so we have a familial relationship. And I think this is the most important part of talking about leadership from my perspective. It's homegrown. It's just the way the organization grew out of need. Leadership and training comes that way. So we started out with 8 kids from the local high school doing visual arts. Now we're multidisciplinary. We have 4 distinct programs, theater arts, devised theater, new media, with creative coding, game design, filmmaking, and the visual arts, in addition to our community programs in middle school. So we do a lot, and we serve about 200 students a year. But these students are with us long term, so this is a key. We're watching them grow up. We're those consistent mentors. We're the place where they're building a family when at home they might not have it. And so for me, John did the same thing. I was no longer an artist needing encouragement in my field and in practice and in visual arts. That was my background. I was now needing to know how to write grants. I was needing to know what press releases looked like. And they let me in the office, and that's not structure, that's not formal structure. This is because we care about each other. And so I think that's the most important thing that I would share today is those, we're dealing with people, and people, sorry, dry mouth, people you should care about on a very personal level. That's the sector we're in, art. It's human, and it's messy, and it's spiritual, and it's, therapy, and the way we live our lives, the way we talk to each other, and leadership should reflect that. And I've been lucky enough that SACY did that for me. As my passion grew, they had a place for me, and when they didn't, they connected me with people who did. And so that's my takeaway, and that's what I'd like to share.
Okay, there's lots of moving around and things. All right, so now I'm up, and let's see. Nicole, sorry, we forgot your slide.
I totally forgot to.
Okay,
That's the building.
check it out.
San Antonio, come party with us. We know we will feed you. You will end up drinking and dancing if that's your thing.
It's true. I can vouch for that.
It's a pretty, yes, thank you. It's a pretty inspiring space, and I added my Twitter handle and my email address in my talk.
All right, so that means people can reach out to you.
Yes, please.
Okay, right on. That's how we learn. I love it. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to, did I mess with it again? No, I'm good, right? All right, so I'm going to show a video that's going to help tell my part of the story. So I'm leading this piece with the Multicultural Arts Leadership Institute that I spoke of briefly. And this is a thing that we started almost 10 years ago. Two friends of mine, Raul Lozano and Roy Hirabayashi, and I started because we were the three people of color in the South Bay that were constantly being asked to be at every goddamn performance, committee. Okay, I'm at the public art thing for the airport, that we're gonna have this thing over here. Can you come to city council and speak on this budget item, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, seriously, we are not the only three people of color in the South Bay, the San Francisco South Bay, that can attend to these things. So okay, you guys, sorry. Help. So my point is that we said, let's start this thing because we're tired of being the three people, right? It's ridiculous. There are many people of color in the South Bay, and we should start a thing. Now, how does it relate back to arts education? Because I can see Jeff in the back being like, okay, now what's the connection? Is that this homegrown model, Nicole, that you just spoke of, we didn't actually know that the Mali program was going to help resolve a significant challenge that we were having in the community. What to do with this beautiful 6-acre facility called the Mexican Heritage Plaza, which had essentially basically failed. Supposed to be this Latino Lincoln Center of the West, and it wasn't. So what we didn't know was that how this network that we didn't create for that purpose was actually gonna really ignite this vision that this community had, a full activation of the space that was inclusive of arts education for children. So anyways, enough talk, let's show the video. Okay, so supposedly it'll go when right? Here we go. There it goes, and
this area has a tainted reputation of being a poor area, a dangerous area. But when you walk in and you see these amazing cultural events, when you see the amount of family that we bring in and doing something healthy, something beautiful that the students engage in, something safe,
just real
something
quick,
that
there
promotes
are
culture
4
and
or 5 or
heritage.
6 graduates of
It's
the Mali
amazing.
program in this alone.
Lo que más me encanta cuando yo llego a este lugar, pues es que todos son muy amigables.
When you walk into the Mexican Heritage Plaza, it is an oasis.
Mali grad.
In Mexico, we call it a casa de cultura, which translates to a home of culture.
I think that everybody in the community or everybody that comes in through the door is the School of Arts and Culture.
Our community needs enrichment programs that are financially accessible to the families.
There's a diversity of activities going on. There's always either dance, there's music, there's visual arts. There's always different kinds of people around, and it's always really fun to see what everybody else is doing.
In this community, but I would say throughout most of American culture, we consume the arts. It's entertainment. But here, you can learn to be a maker. And that instills, I think, a sense that you can do things. You don't have to buy it. You can actually make it. You can solve problems.
By being able to attend a high-quality program after school or during the summer, it helps us keep our community safe and, in turn, come in to learn about their culture.
And when people see that their culture isn't just about working in minimum wage jobs or living in a neighborhood that's dangerous, but when they come to a place of arts and culture and they're able to take their gift and their contribution and being seen by a bigger audience, that's transformative for an individual.
Now the problem that we're facing with today's youth is they're in their machines and they're always connected and plugged in. What art does is it disconnects them from that world. It brings them to the tactile world where there's emotions, there's feelings, there's movement.
Dancing is like finding the gold where the rainbow ends.
Kids get a real sense of their greatness when they do art. Things begin to happen inside that kid. That kid performs better at school, is able to work better with others, is less likely to join gangs or do some destructive work. That kid's more likely to think critically. And those are all the elements that we believe are part of Si Se Puede, which is yes, you can. You are able to do this. You have the capacity to make change in yourself and change in the world.
Para mí como madre es bien importante que mis hijos sepan sus raíces, que sepan de dónde vienen, quiénes son y qué mejor pues enseñárselos desde pequeños, ¿no? Entonces van creciendo con eso ya.
Our culture needs to be fed heritage, history, pride. So you give that to them. And then you're going to get your confidence. Then you have the tools to have a voice to speak about what it is that you're doing. And then on top of that, we're teaching you history. So when you do say something, it's going to be important. And then you're going to speak for your community about your heritage. I fell in love with that.
I know it's a video about the School of Arts and Culture in its entirety, but just about everybody in there is a Mali graduate. And again, I just want to emphasize how we just didn't know how critical the network was going to be in terms of leadership and staffing of getting this vision to come to fruition. And then I'll stop there so we can move on to the next piece. But thank you for allowing us to show a full video. Yeah? Okay. All right, Kathi.
Hello, everyone. Really exciting. I just wanted to reflect quickly. We're talking about leadership in the next generation, and what does that mean? And you can hear that the stories are very personal. The stories are growing community. The stories are of organizations, and there really is a momentum. I think of when Bob Lynch spoke about how advocacy is kind of forever. Well, in a lot of ways, being persistent about change and the development of access to arts education and high quality programs. We all know in this room that's a long journey. That's not a 1 year or 2 year venture. It's really kind of a lifelong story. I'm here today to share a little bit of research information about what I learned in developing a chapter for the book that you see the graphic for the cover of it on the screen, Arts Integration in Education, Teachers and Teaching Artists as Agents of Change. And this was a collaborative effort from a group of theater education folks who had a vision for this book that would have 25 chapters and 25 authors. So I got the last chapter to write. There were actually 3 forwards because we said this is very collaborative work. So Bob Lynch wrote 1 forward, and Daryl Ayers, who was Vice President of Education at the Kennedy Center, wrote 1 forward, and Eric Booth, a great teaching artist, wrote another forward. So the chapter I got was the last one, is how do we arts education, systemic change, and sustainability. And how do you tackle that? So, you know, what does it take? Not just about arts integration, but the whole shebang. So I realized at that time that I'd been working in this field for about 20 years in Washington, D.C. area when I had come to be the director of the Alliance for Arts Education Network at the Kennedy Center. And so I said, okay, there's not a huge amount of movement in the leadership in our field. We do have some stability. I think we argue enough with each other, but we like each other enough to sort of pursue those visions. So I decided to focus on 4 questions and share not my thoughts alone, but those of 32 other colleagues that I actually interviewed one-on-one. And by the way, my PowerPoint is posted on the handouts for the session, so you would be able to access that. But the first question being, how can the arts become a part of systemic change in our nation's schools? And I'm going to flip through quickly so you see each of the questions. How can teachers, including, look at it globally, certified arts educators, teaching artists, and classroom teachers, and teaching artists be agents of change to further our collective agenda for arts in schools? And my favorite question, are there strategies that we have adopted as a field or things that we do that are counterproductive? In other words, what are we doing wrong? And the fourth is, you know, what do you think is the key to sustainability for keeping high quality arts education in the schools? And I think one of the things about emerging leadership and leadership work that I think is really important is that everybody's got to find their own journey and their own path. But I share some of these insights with you about what people said they thought over the next several years, I would say even a decade. You know, what are the important factors? The importance of advocacy networks, the importance of really knowing the infrastructure of it's very complicated what we work with. You know, you work in education, you work in the system, you work out of the system, you work in a cultural organization, you work as an artist, you work as a partner. You have to know how this ecosystem works. We all find ourselves explaining that a lot these days as we look at a changing federal role in education. You really want to have some idea of what are the policy changes and outcomes. What are we striving for? And I think that part of the value of this work is what are we not only striving for, but can we can we forge a common agenda of what the things are that we think would have the most impact in the years ahead. And clarity about what we mean by when we say a high quality arts education. What does that look like? People ask it that question. So those are some of the findings in the first question. And how can teachers and teaching artists be agents of change? Well, we all know, first and foremost, be a good artist, be a good teacher, be a good art educator, do that job on the ground. That is the most important thing that can be done, because you're touching lives every single day, and you're sharing what a high quality arts experience looks like, and all of those things that go with that. The importance of planning and partnerships is something that I think in collaboration is very, very important in all of our work. Really creating an environment of support that values the arts and arts learning, and I think that is even more timely right in these years, in this time frame. We're in a cyclical time where the value of the arts is very, very important for us to be able to articulate. Helping students be advocates. We all know that when a group of kids come in and talk about why the arts are important to them at whatever level, it is impressive. It does a better job than any adult can do in terms of sharing what the value is and the importance of it is. And then we have to share our professional development experiences, because we can only move an agenda forward when we start having some common and shared experiences together. I'm sure many of you do that in your work and create settings and opportunities for others to do that. The number one item about what we do wrong, we argue about vocabulary, and we argue and we argue and we argue, and then other people say, why can't you all agree? And in my experience with this issue, because it means different things to different people in different contexts. So use what vocabulary you want. Just be clear in your context what you're trying to say, because people say arts education, arts in education, arts integration, arts fusion, all of that stuff, and a lot of other people don't care. That's very in the weeds. And when some people have said to me over the course of my work in arts education, well, we all have to figure that out. We have to do that first. My story is we fill the Super Bowl stadium, we come to agreement over 2 days, and then we do it all over again the next week. It's what I call blocking behavior. I think we just all need to be clear in our context. And it doesn't mean that language isn't important and words aren't important. They are, but they can become a real hurdle. And a lot of the people I interviewed who work in education, who are not artists, that observe that in us. Advocacy by individual disciplines. We tend to work in silos. I'm sure in your own work you know that when you can look at, doesn't every child deserve every artistic experience in every discipline that we can put forward? We do better together, collaborating together to advocate for all the arts. We spend a disproportionate amount of time not working on leadership development, so I really, applaud at the grassroots level the work that my colleagues on the stage are doing, because we don't focus on it as much as some other parts of the education field. We have a scarcity mentality that couples with my other one with the press, is we let people say the arts are the first to be cut, even when they're not always the first to be cut. And then when a school board has had the arts and hasn't made cuts for a number of years, they go, well, it was inevitable because everybody knows the arts were first to be cut and we didn't cut them. And we just buy into that. There are a lot of places, yes, that are struggling, and it's leadership. It is individual leadership in the bully pulpit that keeps the arts in place and grow. But there are places that we all know that are stellar examples that have built programs over time. So to buy into that, I think it's a little PR trap for us to say, woe is me, and that we don't have enough, and that the arts are always the ones that get cut. And so it's part of how we talk about what we do, the need to broaden the message about the role of arts education in schools. So those are some of the doing wrong stuff. And then how do you sustain the arts? Many of the things that Americans for the Arts is doing brilliantly with the current campaign effort about jobs and workforce, STEM and STEAM learning, leadership at the school district level, going to be more important than ever before with the new ESSA plans as more and more decisions are made at the state and local level. And then holding people accountable for what they said that was going to happen when you've had successes. And then, of course, the role of cultural organizations that can really, really be very, very important to being a voice and spokespeople for arts education in schools. So this is some of what I was involved with in sort of gathering these up, and it makes me think as a leadership field, because everybody can lead from wherever they are, is that identifying the things that matter to you, the possible future challenges, the possibilities of areas that you want to work on, helps us, collectively continue to strengthen and support arts education moving forward.
We have microphones galore. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, Kathi. Okay, so now I'm keeping track of time. I know you all have things to do at 4:15 when we wrap up. So now is when you get a chance to express yourself at your table. We originally thought we would do pair sharing, but I saw how you guys were when we were starting at 3 o'clock. So if you want to table share, that's fine too. We don't have a gigantic group. So first of all, if you're in the back, pair share. If you're up here, you can table, or maybe you can come up. And I'm going to give a question for you to consider, and then I'm going to give you a second question. So the first question is going to be pretty easy. It'll be your 5-minute kind of warm-up question, and that's what has been your path for developing your leadership? Who has helped you along the way? What's been your path, and who has helped you along the way? Don't be bitter. Who's helped you along the way? Okay. All right. Great. We have some people pointing to the people who have. Okay. So you can silently answer as well. So, anyways. That's your question. What has been your path for developing your leadership? Who has helped you along the way? I'm going to give you 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Let's see how talkative you are. I don't know. Go ahead.
Share bears. Really, do it. Look at each other. You can do it.
Tamara, can you put that on the screen?
Um,
Ask him if he can plug in your. Or put up the 3 questions. Put them back up. Put the 3 questions back up.
Were they? Did you know if he? Okay. Well, do you know if did he? You know, they were adding up to that? No, I'm just asking. I don't know if they're already in there. Which one is it? Because there's another 2 slides left. We're on it, slide 18 in the deck. Was it up at the front? Okay. The next question would be, this is good. This is perfect. We'll just park it.
I have a flyer from the project director.
So basically. And then I also in the
do you need a little bit more time? Maybe like 2 minutes? Yeah? Okay. All right.
Because they got everybody at the table and it's the first question and they don't know each other.
3 minutes.
That last session too, that we were back then, people were walking in and out the whole time. It was like,
I will, yeah. Okay, up on the screen you will find your a version. I know several people in this room, and I know you guys are still going to do what you're going to do. So I'm going to tell you, or I'm going to ask you to consider a question, and then you do what you need to do. Okay, all right. So what I had thought was to kind of collapse two of our big questions as what are some of the best ways to foster intergenerational dialogue in order to deal with challenges faced by emerging and veteran arts education administrators. So I think that's where I kind of put two things together. So that's what I want us to spend some time on for the next, I don't know, 5-6 minutes or so. So what are some of the best ways to foster intergenerational dialogue in order to deal with challenges faced by emerging and veteran arts education administrators? If you want to get up and join a new table, this would be a non-awkward time to do it. That would be good too. Okay, all right, so nobody will judge you that much. So we have listed these questions up here. If the question I gave you, you don't like it, there's versions of that same question up here and then others up here. And go.
Well, since the last time Americans for the Arts was on the West Coast, because I remember her, she did a thing in April. So that's, they did together a Q&A. It may have been San Antonio, it may have been Austin. I mean, it's a while. I think it might have been Austin. Yeah, which is not out here. No, I don't either. Seattle several years ago. So on a side personal note, do I what? Do I like Pilates? I love Pilates. No. Well, I don't do a class. I do one-on-one. So it's almost all Pilates equipment, and it's a lot of flexibility and strength training and breathing. And I've been doing that for a year, and I go once a week. It's not like yoga? No, because it's a little bit more strength training, a little bit less
All right. I see that you don't need us. That's fine. 1 more minute? 1 more minute? Yeah? Okay. 2 more minutes? You guys want like 10 minutes. You're crazy. Take it to the hallway. Go to the bar. We're going to do full group in 2 minutes, all right?
I lost like 50 pounds when I cut the course. And then I cut dairy this summer, and because I have vitamins, and I would never have done it any worse. I didn't bring it back.
There. All right, so it's time to report back or ask questions or make comments. And we have plenty of microphones. I see you. I see you, Indi. You got the microphone. Okay, so you can start. That table wants to start. So this is going to be, it's 3:57, so we have 18, can I add? Yeah, 18 more minutes of this bliss. I'm not being sarcastic. So we can ask questions of each other, of the panelists, and report back out on our thoughts. So Indi, I see you. We have a microphone on the floor. We have multiple microphones on the floor. Anything that's like, oh my gosh, we need to say this out loud. All right, here we go. Sacrificial poet.
Thank you. I'm Brittany, and our table, we recognize that we were all emerging leaders. So our conversation really started talking about the mentors we had in our own life and who had helped us in our career. And then that conversation really kind of got flipped on its head of who are we mentoring even as emerging leaders. So that was something that kind of was profound to me, as even though we might feel new or that we're emerging, that there's still people underneath us who might feel like they're emerging too, and what are we doing to support them? So for the veterans in the room, emerging people, we want to be mentored. And anyone who's emerging, like, consider who you are mentoring.
Good, okay, all right. Love is a two-way street. From Long Beach, did you want to say something? From your table? Okay. Yes, I will pick on people in the room.
Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes. Griselda Suarez from Arts Council for Long Beach. I'm the executive director. And I think one of the things, the threads that we tapped into was this idea of elders, not necessarily elders across the board of knowledge, but the fact that some elders guide you through strengths, like what are your strengths, and guide you to those strengths. And then at the same time, the same elders can also just say, no, just do this. And we all really appreciated that, both sides of the coin. And so then how do we, in our communities, continue to do that, where we can have the strengths to say, no, I really think you should just go this way, while at the same time looking at the strengths in our staff or in our community leaders and to find a way to guide them. One of the last ideas was, how do we, as mid-career or veteran, that was the other question, when do you become a veteran? or, you know, o veterana, I don't know when. What does that feel like? But anyway, that's another conversation. But the idea is, how do we engage our, you know, younger or just new to the career staff, and asking them to also take the step forward? Like, how do we say, take the step forward as well so I can meet you there, rather than always depending on me, for example?
Thank you. And if I can just interject something, this, you know, the Molly program is multi-generational. And so what we were finding was that we had individuals who are not emerging in this like sort of like 18 to 30 bracket, but emerging out of like the tech sector, as an example, into the arts. So that's been an experience that we've had from the beginning. It was always built to be multi-generational because that's what our makeup was of the three of us. We were like, well, you know, grandma lives at home and so does this, and we all live together. So why wouldn't we do that programmatically? But that's what we have been experiencing in the South Bay. Just as a quick response to that. Okay, we had another hand over here, I think. Yes, go for it.
Hey, I'm Jean Johnstone from Teaching Artists Guild, and something that a slightly different take on this issue. Sorry, I thought that was me. We work with teaching artists who, after a certain point in time, can only go so far in that career. There's not pathways really built in most cities, in most regions. So once you get to a certain point as a teaching artist, you kind of go, oh, I want to start a family, or I want to, you know, make more money, or I want to whatever the next thing is. I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And so lots of us become arts administrators. And so within this field of teaching artistry, there's actually not a mechanism for many elders it's kind of a strange thing. And I wanted to call that out as I was trying to think about, like, oh, am I emerging, or what was my path, and who am I, and you know, as I'm looking at others around me and how we do this, it's a real issue for us within this specific piece of this. So, there.
Kathi, do you want to respond to that a little bit?
To respond to that, well, I think that we have to look at, you know, that's a career path. I know teaching artists have been teaching artists their entire career. So I think that it really sort of depends for anybody what you want that path to be, and what, you know, the continuous improvement of skills and development of skills, and, you know, the sort of finding somebody who's doing what you want to do kind of thing doesn't make an excuse. But, you know, when we look at ballet dancers or athletes who have a limited career, a teaching artist doesn't really have a limited career in terms of there's an end because it's physically driven or something. Dancers perhaps, but I think it's more of thinking about what those next opportunities might be and what you bring to that table. I also wanted to answer her question about how do you know that you're a veteran? When you were always the youngest person in the room and you aren't anymore. And I had a boss who said to me once, it's like a switch goes on, and it's, you know, it's somewhere in that 40s kind of point, and it just kind of like goes bing, and you're not the youngest person in the room anymore. So that's when that happens. And it's fine. Consider the alternative.
I'm Argie Nestor, the Director of Arts Education at the Maine Arts Commission, and I would like to respond to what you just said. In many ways, pre-K through grade 12 arts educators don't have an alternative path either, other than administration or arts administration. And in Maine, we don't have arts administration positions because of the nature of our state. We have the Maine Arts Leadership Initiative underway, and we bring teachers together for professional development in leadership and a bunch of other things with that, teaching and learning assessment, et cetera. So now we have teaching artist leaders that we've invited to be part of that as well. And I'm wondering if there's a resource bank or a data collection of programs across the country in leadership in arts education that we could tap into and learn. And Jeff is raising his arm, so evidently there may be one, and I apologize, I'm not aware of it. Oh, it's coming in January. Yay, Jeff, yay, AFTA. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to be fast. So my name is Nancy Ng. I'm a Director of Community Engagement with the Luna Dance Institute. And I want to just address what you brought up, Jean, and what you brought up around kind of that track, or one of the questions that I've had, and I think I now have to put myself in the category of veteran because I'm no longer the youngest person in the room. Denise is laughing at me because we went to college together. But anyway, I, for a long time for myself, was actually looking for a leadership cohort for myself. Now, at this point in my career, and knowing that there wasn't really anything out there, and interested in Kaylee at one point, which I know you attended, Indi, and one of my managers is going to be attending this year, and thinking about that, and that we're also working at Luna on a future living transition as within our management team, and what does that look like, and we've done some work, but thinking about what does that look like nationally, and what would, and I'm glad AFTA is doing something, but really around a mentorship program or intergenerational leadership program that would be something that would be national, that would be for veteran as well as emerging leaders. And I know that, and I don't know if anyone knows or have heard the latest from what's coming out of the National Guild for Community Arts Education, but I just saw something in their latest vision statement about doing more leadership work. So that's a question. So I'd love to hear about what's out there.
Thank you. And then over there.
I'm Indi Erickson. I'm with Angels Gate Cultural Center in San Pedro, and I think the nexus of this conversation we had at our table was how do we find time in our day to get all the generations together to have a conversation about arts education? Because we can talk all day about wanting to bring people up to the table or away from the table or whatever we're looking at, but how do we have the time, instead of in separate groups, because I love what TAG's doing, I love what the county's doing in LA, but to come together, and where are those groups? Like, who convenes that group in that area? It's funny, we're at the South Bay of the Bay and the South Bay of LA, right? But in both of those places, there isn't like a group that brings these people together to talk about arts ed, right? To talk about the state of it and where we're going. So just wonder if anybody has resources on that.
I know there's been different communities that, I mean, I'm looking at you, Sophia, like, remember when there was the Santa Clara County, like, there was like a thing, like a network that met often. I'm like going back into the...
There's a Creativity at the Core in Santa Clara County in San Jose is happening in July, July 26th through the 28th. So for folks, I know there's like an overrepresentation of some Bay and South Bay folks in the room, but at least in that, and that's not for your Bay, unfortunately. Yeah, there's that happening in San Jose, July 26th through 28th, convening all of these arts education.
Okay, cool, awesome. Next, yes, go for it.
I'm Donna Russell with the Alabama Arts Alliance, and I think at our table, for the most common thread was that we all see the benefit in collaborating with our younger people, and also kind of pairing younger teachers with veteran teachers, so that they can learn from each other. I mean, one of the biggest things was the whole social media piece. We need somebody who really enjoys to do that, and in our business we need that. We need to draw attention to what we're doing. So I think collaboration, working together, and really valuing the opinions and the work of that younger generation really helps a lot.
Wait, the back of the room, yes. The ones who did not want to form a circle. No, but you did, yeah. All right, go ahead.
We were talking a little bit about disruption, being a new person being a new person, being an emerging leader in an organization, and you have a new idea for something, and you're told, well, we've always done it this way. And so for those veteran leaders who are mentoring someone and maybe have that person is having a hard time with someone else in the organization, or maybe you're mentoring someone outside of your organization, they need tips for how to have that conversation. And then I think we as veteran leaders need to have an open mind. Our way is not the only way. There are lots of things to learn. Just because someone is 20 years younger doesn't mean they don't have amazing stuff to offer. So that's what I think that we all have to have in mind, that nobody's got this nailed down.
I think we had a comment or a question over here. Hold on. We're getting our steps today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charlotte DeArmond Talbert, and we're looking forward to having you in beautiful Denver, Colorado next year. I am a coordinator of the Scientific and Cultural Collaborative, which is a group of arts, culture, and science organizations that are funded by our cultural tax. 1 penny on every $10 goes to a cultural tax. Last year, that was $50 million that was distributed to 300 organizations. Some of those organizations take that money and put it into a joint nonprofit, which I oversee. And arts education is a huge part of that. To the question about how do you get people together, so for 25 years, the first Thursday of every month, we have roundtables, and that roundtable are specifically for education discussions. And I think our success has been because we offer it all the time. It's not a once-a-year thing. It is sometimes there'll be 3 people in the room, sometimes there'll be 50. We always try and have presenters when we can, but a lot of times it's just sharing where somebody will walk in, and we operate under the principles of AA. Somebody will walk in and go, my board of directors is driving me nuts. I have a guy who thinks he knows everything. What do I do? And we just help one another out. That is young, middle, and veteran folks. So I would say just being consistent in getting together. So like I said, it's pretty amazing. We also make sure that we include our teachers and our emerging teachers. So first-year teachers right up to 20-year teachers. We always have teacher panels that come in, and we just ask the questions, what's going on in your classroom that we should know about? Suicide rates, mental health, a sense of loss, excitement, the use of technology. So just start meeting and keep meeting. And if it's too great, where 2 or more of us are gathered, there's going to be some great discussion. So
Thank
thanks.
you. And we will see you in Denver. We're getting very close to you going on to your next thing. So I'm going to ask, what's that?
Can I just say one thing at the end, too?
You want to say one thing?
Yeah.
At the very, very end?
Yeah.
Or right now?
At the end.
At the very end, okay. I'm going to ask my fellow panelists to say something brief, final thoughts, starting with you, Indi.
Okay.
Final thoughts.
Just in response to the issue brought up at the end, I'm really curious with organizations how we build structures within our organizations to have those intergenerational dialogues for veterans to know that they're going to be learning from newer people. I think that, and that could be in the form of alumni councils or alumni boards or youth advisory boards at our organizations. But how are we building in that self-reflective process and that process for everyone to put their ideas at the table to help make our organizations and work better?
What he said. No, just kidding. No, I want to echo what she shared in the back. I wouldn't have the opportunity to do the things that I'm doing or feel more comfortable, being one of the youngest administrators at any convention I go to ever, is because my executive director and my mentor believed in me and trusted me and put me in the water to swim without really giving much direction, and then coming back and laughing together and being really honest. So if you can just put ego aside, and ageism aside, it's really about sharing what you have, what you're passionate about, and being honest in your feedback with one another. If you build a good relationship, then there's no reason that you can't share your advice and tell them when their ass is showing and give them another chance even though they messed up. That's what it is. It's family. That's the best leadership that you could offer.
That's the one that I had. We swapped. I'd say keep learning and keep committing to the field and the community and meet new people. Don't just stay with the people you already know, because there's a whole lot of great people that none of us have had a chance to meet yet who have great new ideas and things to share. Keep growing. That's what art is about, and learning.
Sure. I want to say hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Poulin. I'm the Arts Ed Program Manager at Americans for the Arts. Thanks for coming to this session. I guess I have 3 sort of things to say. One, because I'm feeling inspired or sleep deprived from convention. But I want to just point out there's a couple of my mentors that are in this room. Kathi, Levin, and I speak just about every Friday. John Hinojosa, who Nicole and I share as a great mentor. Margie Reese is floating around somewhere here, who pleasantly reminds me of a typo when I send it out in a newsletter. And Donna Russell is like my Alabama arts ed mentor here. So I want to owe thank you to all of those folks. But to be honest with you, this conversation is going to be continuing, and I just want to let you all know that at Americans for the Arts. We have two big projects that we're working on at the moment. One around youth voice in arts education, engaging young people in the process of leadership and advocacy, that's happening simultaneously. The other is a program that will actually be shortly announced around this very, very topic. We're bringing together thought leaders, veterans, and emerging arts education leaders to put together a set of tools and resources. As I briefly mentioned earlier, in fact, our intern's working on it this summer. He's watching the live stream, hey Jordan, and texting me simultaneously on a Saturday night in Washington, D.C., so applause for him. But this is a big commitment from Americans for the Arts to continue the intergenerational dialogue, and just keep an eye out on your emails, because we will be asking for people to participate in this process for all of the resources that will be coming out in January. The final thing is, if you are interested in arts education at this conference, tonight from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Museum of the African Diaspora, which is about a 10-minute walk from here, we are having a networking reception that everyone can come and meet. There is no program, but there is free beer and wine and cheese and crackers. This is what happens when you let Jeff Poulin plan an event. So I have directions here if anyone would like them.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for bringing us together with this idea. So I really appreciate that, because there's a lot of, hand-holding and late-night emailing of like, Jeff, what about this? What about that? So thanks, everyone. We will be up here and available to offer you unsolicited advice. Thank you very much.